Keep educating yourself. Time management, secret of success.
It's my goal to help you make a lasting change, not just learn some tips or techniques that will help you be more productive or have better time management. Many people who have completed this program have experienced a near permanent change that lasts for many, many years. How will we accomplish that? By putting greater emphasis on the principles rather than the tools. The tendency for many people is to believe that the next piece of software that they buy, the next computer that they purchase, the next smartphone that they use will suddenly improve their productivity by virtue of advanced technology. The reality is that technology itself will not make you more productive. What will make you more productive is using the technology in a way that's based on timeless principles. Principles that never change, regardless of advancements in technology. For example, one of the things that you'll learn through the course of this training is that you need to carry your calendar, your contacts, and your tasks with you wherever you go. Whether you use a smartphone or a paper planner to accomplish that, it doesn't matter as much as the commitment you make to live that principle. So, the next time you think that buying a new tool will make you more productive, keep in mind, they will only make you more productive when you live according to the principles of good time management and productivity. This course will show you those principles and, more importantly, help you practice them so that they become second nature to you. It's in the habits you develop where you'll experience lasting change. What would you do if you had an extra 10 hours per week? Stop and ponder that question for a moment. If you had an extra 2 hours every workday, how would you reinvest that time? Would it be on hobbies? Would it be on friends and family? Would you reinvest it to further develop your career? Really think about this question. If you had an extra 10 hours per week, how would you spend the time? One of the critical elements in becoming more productive and mastering time management is to have a strong motivation in mind. This motivation is a vision of the future, what you will do or what life will look like once you reach a certain point. It's my experience that those who follow this course get that exact result. They gain at least an extra 10 hours per week of increased productivity in their schedule. So before we go through the process of getting that time, I'd like you to decide right now what you're going to do with that time once you get it. Write your answer down and put it in a prominent place where you can see it. When I have an extra 10 hours a week, I will, and then fill in the blank. As you go through this training, continually look back at that question and remember your personal motivation. There are going to be moments where you find what I ask you to do challenging. A little bit of challenge is necessary for growth, right? So whenever you feel challenged and think you might be tempted to not complete the course, I want you to look back at that card and remember your vision of the future of what you'll do with the extra time you'll uncover. That's the motivation behind you going through this training. Always refer back to your motivation and the likelihood of your success will increase. Ironically, the biggest obstacle to effective time management is something that many people believe is what makes them more productive. Let's address the myth of multitasking before we dive deeper into time management. In order for you to experience this myth firsthand, let's do an exercise together. We're going to find out how well you use your time when you multitask. You can download and print out a handout from the course page. Alternatively, I have an example of the handout here. You can use any piece of white paper to do this exercise. Notice that I have the phrase at the top of this exercise that says, multitasking is worse than a lie. Mark Twain was credited with saying, there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. Perhaps you've heard that before. Well, I say there are lies, damned lies, and multitasking. Multitasking is worse than a lie because it is culturally acceptable. It's something we've all been taught makes us more productive. What you're about to experience firsthand is how multitasking is actually hindering your productivity. Here's how the exercise works. Wait to hear all of the instructions before you begin. First, I want you to recopy the phrase, multitasking is worse than a lie, in the first row. And then underneath that, in the second row, write the numbers 1 to 27. And when you get done, just write your time off to the end of the second row. Great. Now let's do this again. This time, I want you to multitask. So for every letter you write, you're going to write a number. So you'll begin by writing the letter M, and beneath that you'll write a 1. And then you'll write a U, and beneath that you'll write a 2, L, 3, and so on. And this again will be a timed exercise. What you just experienced is the myth of multitasking. Rather than getting more done faster, you got worse results slower. This is because your brain is physically incapable of handling multiple active tasks at the same time. It's why I call multitasking switch tasking. What you really did when you tried to multitask was switch back and forth rapidly between the tasks, just as you switched back and forth rapidly between the numbers and the letters. This is switch tasking, and it's always devastating to effective time management. Let's cover the 3 effects of switch tasking. Remember, when someone thinks they're multitasking, what they're really doing is switching back and forth rapidly between tasks. They aren't really multitasking, they're switch tasking. Number 1, this is the most obvious. When you multitask, the amount of time it takes to complete things increases. I'll give you a brief example. I once worked with a business owner and asked her to tell me of a recent time when she was multitasking. She described a situation where she was doing 3 things at once: typing an email, talking to her assistant, and talking on the phone. She spent a total of 1 hour doing all 3 of these things at the same time. We all know that multitasking person who doesn't pay attention to us. Well, finally, she went out into the hall and took the phone call. To finish the call, it took her 7 minutes. She went back in to talk to her assistant. It took her 3 minutes. She sat down and answered the email. It took her 3 minutes. In short, when she tried to do all 3 things at the same time, it took her an hour and she accomplished none of them. But when she did them one at a time, it took her less than 15 minutes and she completed all of them successfully. This is where that feeling comes from at the end of the day when you put your feet up on the couch and you're so exhausted, you've been working hard, but what did you accomplish? You've been juggling and jumping between tasks without finishing anything. Number 2 is quality. When you switch tasks, the quality of your work decreases, or in other words, the likelihood of mistakes increases. How many times have you seen someone been delegated a very clear instruction? Something that's just obvious. Maybe you even gave it to them in writing and they still didn't get it right. Is it because they're stupid? No, it's a symptom of multitasking. And the final, perhaps less obvious but more powerful effect of switch tasking is its impact on your stress levels. Whenever you introduce switch tasking, even the simplest of activities becomes highly stressful. Even with so many time-saving devices, we are more stressed out and more starved for time than we've ever been in the history of the world. This is because of a cultural acceptance of multitasking. So let me recap. The 3 effects of multitasking or switch tasking are: the amount of time it takes to complete things increases, the quality of work you do decreases, and your stress levels increase dramatically. Everything in this course is designed to reduce the switches in your day and reduce the effects of switch tasking.
Time management, secret of success.
The first fundamental principle of time management is space, meaning your workspace, the physical items that are around you. How well are you using the physical space that you have? In particular, we'll focus on helping you understand and live this one phrase. The more gathering points you have, the more switches you make, so have as few gathering points as possible. A gathering point is any place where things that are unresolved come together. I call these unresolved items unprocessed. Typical gathering points include piles of paper, stacks of bills, drawers stuffed full of miscellaneous items, even email inboxes, voicemail boxes, and receipts stuffed in your pocket are all considered gathering points. We must reduce the number of gathering points you have in order to reduce the amount of switches that take place in your day. Remember, every switch you make causes you to be less effective, make more mistakes, and increase your stress levels. How does having many gathering points make you switch more during your day? Well, I like to use this little example. Imagine that you and I are in a competition, an orange gathering competition. We must both gather oranges from trees and put them into one basket. You and I both have to gather 100 oranges and put them into one basket. Who can do it the fastest? Now, let's say that you have to gather oranges from 20 different trees, and I have to gather oranges from 5 different trees. Who's going to win the competition? It's very simple, right? Because you have to make many more trips back and forth between all of those trees to get the oranges into that one basket. You're going to have a lot more switches. You're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of energy going back and forth between all those different gathering points for oranges. I have to make less trips, going to fewer trees. So I go faster and I win the competition. The same thing happens in your day. If you have a lot of gathering points, you expend a lot of time and energy going back and forth between them. So by reducing the number of gathering points you have, you'll gain precious time in your day, allowing you to focus on more important, more valuable activities. Later on in this course, we'll get into the specifics of reducing your gathering points. For now, remember this. The more gathering points you have, the more switches you make, so have as few gathering points as possible. The second fundamental principle of time management is stop using your mind as a gathering point. In the last video, I explained how a gathering point is any place where things that are unprocessed gather. So if you use your mind as a gathering point, that means that you're allowing a lot of to-dos and tasks and projects to swirl around in your head. Think about the last hour. How many times did you interrupt yourself when a new thought popped into your head? Each one of those little self-interruptions was a switch. And switches, remember, will cause things to take longer, cause you to make more mistakes, and will increase your stress levels. A mind filled with to-dos and action items is constantly in a state of switching. This is terribly inefficient, very stressful, and a recipe for lots of mistakes. It's part of the reason why many of you, who I called the lost souls, once were organized and are now disorganized. You've allowed the to-dos to spill into your mind and distract your thoughts. I've seen instances of people who damage personal relationships simply because their mind is filled with too many unresolved tasks. I've also seen people who don't sleep well because they go to bed at night thinking about all the things that they need to do and wake up in the morning thinking about all the things that they need to do. An entire section in this course is devoted to help you find a better system for getting all these things out of your mind forever. This will allow you to better focus throughout your day on the tasks at hand and not distract yourself. So, in summary, principle 2 is never use your mind as a gathering point. The third and final principle that you should live in order to master your time deals with how you view time itself. In particular, avoid paying interest on your time. What do I mean when I say interest on time? Well, perhaps you've heard the phrase, time is money. I don't know if time always is money, but time certainly behaves like money because it's a scarce resource. Many people have experienced firsthand the negative consequences of going into debt with money. The number one consequence of going into debt with money is that you have to repay it with interest. In other words, when you buy something on credit, rather than budgeting for it and paying cash all up front, you end up paying much more in the long run. Would you be surprised if I told you that you can borrow time? In fact, I would guess that most people are borrowing time every single day. Now, I'm not saying that you can magically get 25 hours in a day because you can't, but you can borrow from one activity to pay something else. For example, you can borrow from sleep to pay work. You can borrow from work to pay a hobby. You can borrow from your family time to pay work. And what is the consequence of all that borrowing? Well, you always have to repay the time with interest, and time demands a brutal interest rate. I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say that you repeatedly borrowed time from sleep to pay work, that you're sleeping less than your body requires. Well, if you continue to do that, you'll end up spending more time recovering, being tired and sluggish, and you'll be less productive. Continually do this over a long period of time, and studies have shown that you'll also have an impact on other aspects of your health, which will really cost you a lot of time. The key to living this principle of avoiding paying interest on time is to live within your means. Live within a time budget and never overspend. In fact, begin the habit of underspending time. The average person tries to cram 65 minutes worth of activity into a 60-minute hour, or 25 hours worth of activity into a 24-hour day. Instead of getting more done by doing that, they get less done because they're retracing their steps. They end up repaying interest on borrowed time. So just as happiness comes from spending $1 less than what you make, and misery comes from spending $1 more, so also does happiness come from spending 5 minutes less than what you have. And misery comes from attempting to spend 5 minutes more than you have. Later in the course, I'll show you the specific steps that you can take to begin living within your means and living within a time budget. By doing that, you'll actually get more done. You'll have less stress, and ironically, you'll have more time. For now, just remember this principle. Avoid paying interest on time. This training course was built in a way to help you get advice and tips that you can apply immediately, no matter which video you jump to in the training. However, in order to get the best result, I strongly recommend that you complete this training as a whole in 1 or 2 sittings. To accomplish this, let me make 3 recommendations to help you get the most from this course. Number 1 is schedule the time to complete it. In order to complete this entire course and complete the activities that I'm going to give you, it will probably take you several hours. I recommend that you open your calendar now and block out at least 6 hours of uninterrupted time in your schedule to complete this course and perform the exercises that will be given to you. Now, my experience is when I tell people that, many are concerned and they say, I don't have 6 hours in my schedule, that's why I'm going through this program. Look 2 or 3 weeks ahead and set aside the hours to go through the entire course. It will be worth it. If you want to schedule 3 hours one day and 3 hours the next day, that's okay, but it's not nearly as effective as if you complete it all in one day. The second piece of advice I would give you is to complete the course while in your workspace. Your workspace is the laboratory for you to learn the science of time management. This training that you're about to go through is very hands-on. So when you schedule that block of time I mentioned before, try to schedule it so you can be where you do your paperwork, where you answer your emails, your workspace. When I ask you to do something in this training, do it right then. Pause the video, do what I've asked you to do, and implement it. By implementing immediately, you'll condition yourself. It's a bit like how athletes or professional musicians create muscle memory through repetition. I want you to create productivity memory. I want you to develop mental and physical conditioning so you automatically behave in the most productive manner with things like email, paperwork, incoming phone calls, and ideas that come into your head. If you take action immediately, that will go a long way toward building your muscle memory. So, in summary, number 1, schedule the time to complete this course, preferably in one complete block. Number 2, complete this course in your workspace. And number 3, take action immediately and apply the principles I teach you. Do those 3 things and you'll get the maximum benefit from this course.
Time management, secret of success.
Let's begin helping you live the principle of space. We'll start by finding out how many gathering points you have. Remember, a gathering point is any place where you gather unprocessed items. Things like email, tasks, to-dos, ideas, busy work, assignments, projects, and so on. Unprocessed means you haven't clearly decided yet either what to do with it, when to do it, or where's its home. If any one of those 3 things are missing, what, when, where, then the place where that item is a gathering point. We've provided you with a very simple worksheet you can use to determine how many gathering points you have. On this worksheet, for each type of gathering point that you have, add 1. So, for instance, in the example at the top of the worksheet, you'll see voicemail. If you have 3 voicemail accounts, such as a personal voicemail, cell phone voicemail, and work voicemail, then the number you put there would be 3. Go ahead and pause this video, and then after you complete the Gathering Points worksheet, come back and I'll discuss your results with you. Great, you've completed the Gathering Points worksheet. For many people, that worksheet is a real eye-opener. Let's take a look how your Gathering Points number compares with the average results that I've seen through the years of doing this exercise with clients. The average person prior to completing this course has between 30 and 40 gathering points. So if you had a number somewhere between 30 and 40, that's about average. The lowest I've seen from someone who hasn't completed this time management course is 12. I would expect someone with a number around 10, 11, 12, or even lower to be close to falling into that Zen master time management personality. The highest number I've ever seen is 161 gathering points. If you're in that range, it's a significant number, and we have a lot of work to do. But we also have the greatest opportunity for improvement. Now that you understand where you fit on the scale of gathering points, I'll tell you the target number that we're going to shoot for in this training. The number of gathering points that you want to strive to have at the end of this training is 6. In the next videos, I'll explain what the 6 gathering points are and steps you can take to get to that number. In order to manage time effectively and reduce the number of switches that take place in your day, you should strive to have 6 or less gathering points. These will be your 6 approved gathering points, the gathering points you choose. I'll begin by outlining the 6 gathering points I use and recommend. Then, in future videos, I'll discuss each of my gathering points in greater depth. The first one is an inbox, meaning a physical inbox. A physical inbox is the place where everything that is physical and unprocessed should go. Papers, receipts, magazines, books, even cords, cables, things that haven't been put away, everything should go into this one physical inbox. Because you don't ever want it to be too full, I recommend that you have a reasonably large inbox. The second gathering point is a portable inbox. The portable inbox is simply the mobile extension of your inbox. It's something that you take with you wherever you go, with the rare exception of maybe a night on the town or perhaps swimming. But all the rest of the time, you should carry a portable inbox with you. Understand, a portable inbox is not the entire briefcase, rather it's one spot within the briefcase or it's one pocket within your planner. I use a portable inbox like this. The third gathering point is a notepad. Notepads come in all shapes and sizes. Whatever form factor works best for you, use that. Notepads are unique in that you're going to have a combination of unprocessed action items and just general notes. The fourth gathering point is an email inbox. Now, if you're like me, you may have multiple email accounts. However, all my email accounts funnel into just one email inbox. That saves time from my having to check many different accounts. I only need to go to one place to see all my unprocessed email. You could do this with almost any email program. It's very easy to retrieve email from other places with just a few changes in your settings. This will save you a considerable amount of time from having to check email at multiple places. And the fifth gathering point is voicemail. Voicemail is still a necessity for most everyone, but you only need to check one voicemail account at most. In a future video, I'll show you some steps that you can take to minimize the number of voicemail accounts that you have. And finally, the sixth gathering point is left open to you. It's the wild card. There are several different options that could work, but you want to choose the one that will make the most sense for you. This could be a raw task list where you're just listing to-dos. It could be text messaging. It could be a dedicated personal assistant, or it could be a social media website inbox. You can also choose to be even more productive and efficient by choosing to not have the sixth gathering point. You'll just make sure that everything goes into the other five. But in order to keep this program flexible, I'm going to leave the choice up to you. In a future video, I'll give you some guidance on how to select a wildcard gathering point that fits your unique needs. So, in summary, your 6 approved gathering points are 1 inbox, 1 portable inbox, 1 notepad, 1 email inbox, 1 voicemail, and 1 wildcard gathering point if necessary. Continuing on, I'll discuss the first gathering point, the inbox. Your inbox is the most important tool when it comes to keeping your space organized. Your inbox will become the home for all unprocessed physical items. By home, I mean that if there's anything out of place, anything unresolved, or anything where you don't have a scheduled time in your calendar or task list to deal with it, it should go into the physical inbox. Think of your inbox as one big box that sits on your desk or close to your workspace. Anything that you see that's out of place should be picked up and put into that inbox. Papers, receipts, cables, books, magazines, anything that's physical should go in there. Part of the problem that people have is they allow these things to pile up in different places, and then in a whirlwind of frustration, they put everything away. I call this binge and purge organization, and it's a huge waste of time. Instead, cultivate the habit of putting things into the inbox rather than putting them away. Then, at a set, scheduled time, you go through that inbox with a regular system and clear everything out, bringing it to empty at least once per week. I'll show you how to do that processing in a future video. Make sure that your inbox is large enough for your everyday needs with work. How big should the box be? Make sure that it's big enough that it never gets to overflowing. If you're someone that deals with just a handful of papers each week, then maybe a small plastic tray will work for you. This is a great example of a large inbox. It leaves plenty of room for everything that you might encounter in a week without getting too full. Maybe you deal with larger items. For instance, I once worked with an interior design company that had swatches of fabric and granite and lots of different kinds of samples. They needed to go get very large tote-sized baskets. There's no right or wrong inbox. Get whatever works for you. So take a moment right now and decide what inbox you're going to use for all of your physical gathering going forward. This is an important first step toward becoming more productive and getting more time. The second gathering point you'll want to select is one portable inbox. I previously explained that your main inbox is the home for anything physical that's out of place in your workspace. The portable inbox is the mobile extension of that physical inbox. It's what you take with you when you're on the road, when you're out and about, or when you go to the store. Really, any place that you go, you'll want to carry this portable inbox with you. Then, when someone hands you a business card or a receipt or a piece of paper, you just put it into that space. Any space that's large enough for the type of paper that you receive in your day will work. Keep in mind that when I say a portable inbox, I'm not referring to an entire briefcase or a purse. You may have lots of other documents and papers in your briefcase. However, only one slot in that briefcase should be designated as the portable inbox. Or if you're carrying a planner or padfolio, only one pocket in that planner or padfolio would be your portable inbox. For instance, this is my portable inbox. I have one pocket in here that's large enough for a regular sized piece of paper. So, when someone hands an item to me, I put it into that pocket. Then, when I get to my office, I take my portable inbox, open it up, and dump all of its contents into my physical inbox. Choose whatever form of the portable inbox that works best for your situation. Just make sure that you have a clearly designated spot and it's something you're comfortable taking with you wherever you go. Now, just a comment from experience about the portable inbox. Some of you are uncomfortable with the idea of carrying around a large planner, a briefcase, or purse wherever you go. If that's your personality, let me recommend an alternative. Have a small pocket or high-quality file folder that you put in your car. Then, whenever you're at an event or at the store and someone hands you something, you can take those new items back with you and put them into that folder in your car. In general, I don't recommend this because it adds 2 extra steps to your system that are unnecessary. One being that you have to remember to take items back to your car, and 2 being that you have to remember to take the folder out of your car, take it into your office, and dump it into your portable inbox. But if you're concerned about carrying around bulk, putting a portable inbox in the car is an option that some of my clients have found helpful in the past. Take a moment now to decide what portable inbox you're going to use from this point forward. A notepad is a flexible gathering point you can take with you wherever you go to jot down ideas, notes, and action items very quickly. The notepad is a little bit unique in that it combines some of your handwritten notes with no direct action required with other concrete action items that need to be processed. First, let's talk about what kind of notepad you might use. Personally, I use a notepad the size of a full-size sheet of paper. I combine that notepad in my padfolio with a portable inbox, making it easy for me to carry both gathering points with me wherever I go. Some people also have had success with very small notepads, such as this one here. You can find these notepads at any office supply store at a very small expense. These are nice because you can carry them with you in your pocket wherever you go. Another option for a notepad for some people is a tablet PC or a tablet device which allows them to handwrite their notes in a digital form. These digital tablets can be used in the same way one would use a larger physical notepad. Whichever one of these notepads that you use, here are a couple of best practices for gathering items to the notepad. Number 1, make sure that you clearly indicate action items. Separate them from just your general notes by using some sort of symbol. In my case, I use an open checkbox, which lets me know that I need to process it. This is very different than completing it, and I'll show later on how you process these items. But for now, just whenever you encounter some sort of action item, give it a symbol, a star, an open box, or even placing little plastic tags on the side has been successful for some people. The second best practice is that when you get back to your inbox or to your office, if you're using a paper notepad, rip off all the pages and bring them to blank. Then put all of those pages into the inbox. This makes it easy for you to not have to remember to go back and look through the notepad to find those action items. This practice gives you a blank slate each day, helping you to not multitask during the day and be distracted by other unresolved items that you've written down previously. Take a moment right now and decide what kind of notepad you're going to carry with you wherever you go. Email has become a part of our everyday lives, although some people wish it was less so. In a later video, I'll show you how to reduce the amount of email you have to deal with in a day. Right now, I just want to help you reduce the number of email gathering points you may have. To keep your gathering points down, I recommend you have only one email inbox. This means that if you have multiple email accounts, for instance, a Gmail account, a Hotmail account, a Yahoo account, a corporate account, no matter how many accounts you have, you want them all to go into one email inbox. Because there are so many kinds of software programs available for handling email, it's not practical for me to give you a full walkthrough in this training of how to consolidate accounts for every program. There are resources available on lynda.com that will help you understand these various email programs better, and I encourage you to take those courses. However, what you'll want to do right now is, if you have many email accounts, combine all of those into one central email program. Some people may be concerned by this concept, feeling they want to keep work and personal separate. Now, if there are legal considerations behind that, or if your work requires you to keep them separate, then you're going to have an extra gathering point, and there's really no way that we can avoid that. But if you have the ability to combine work and personal, I highly recommend it. You'll actually gain a much greater amount of efficiency and productivity if you deal with both personal and work at the same time when it comes to processing. By handling all of your emails in one spot, you'll get into a rhythm of making those decisions faster and easier. Also, keep in mind that most email programs also give you the flexibility of being able to respond to an email using the account that it was sent to. You can also have separate signatures that automatically go out depending on which account you're using. For instance, you can have a work signature automatically attached to your email when you're replying to work emails, and a personal signature automatically attached to email when you're replying to personal emails. Take a moment right now and consider all the different email accounts that you have. Then decide what one central email software program you're going to use to handle email in the future. How many voicemail accounts do you have? No matter how many voicemail accounts that you have, your goal should be to get to where you only need to check one place for all voicemail. The simplest way to do this is to set up call forwarding on one of your phone lines. For instance, if you have a work voicemail and a cell phone voicemail, set either your work phone to forward to your cell phone if the call isn't answered, or set your cell phone to forward to your work phone number if the call isn't answered. In this way, only one voicemail account will be used, and you only have to check one of those voicemails. Another option, and this works for some people, is to delegate the responsibility of checking the voicemail. For instance, if one of your voicemail accounts is a home voicemail, but your spouse does most of the checking right now, see if you could delegate the responsibility for checking all of the voicemail to your spouse. Or perhaps if you have an assistant, you can have them check your voicemail for you. These examples may not apply in your particular situation, but this is an option for some. Another option is to eliminate the need for voicemail completely. How do we do that? Well, some office phone systems are now advanced enough so that when someone leaves a voicemail, it forwards the voicemail as an audio attachment in an email. This actually eliminates a gathering point because even though you can check your voicemail through that system, you don't need to. It's now pushed all of your voicemail into the email gathering point, eliminating the need to even check voicemail as a separate gathering point. There are also several systems available now that can replace your cell phone voicemail and will also forward the audio file or even a transcription of the call to your email account. For just two examples, Google Voice provides this functionality of recording voicemails as attachments and sending them to your email account. Umail is a service that can replace your cell phone voicemail and create transcription of voicemails left and send you an MP3 as well. New services come online monthly that provide comparable features. By searching for voicemail transcription or voicemail to email, you can explore these options. However you decide to handle your voicemail, it's important for you to get down to 1 or even 0 voicemail accounts. Doing this will increase your efficiency by reducing the number of switches that take place in your day of going back and forth between multiple voicemail accounts. Right now, please write down all of the voicemail accounts that you're currently using and decide how you're going to consolidate them into 1 or no voicemail accounts. The 6th and final gathering point that you may have, I call the wild card. This wild card gathering point just represents whatever gathering point you need to fit your unique situation. For instance, if you need a separate personal email inbox from a work email inbox, the wild card allows you a space among the 6th gathering points to do that. Briefly, I want to discuss some other possible wild card gathering points. The first is a raw task list. A raw task list is simply a running list of to-dos that are unprocessed. It's different than a traditional to-do list, though, in that you're not going to check things off as you complete them. Instead, you're going to check them off as you process them. Remember, processing is simply deciding what you're going to do with it, when you do it, and where its home is. Once you've made the what, when, where decisions, you can check an item off your raw task list. Raw task lists can be paper, such as having a spot in your paper planner, or they can be digital, such as having a list of tasks within Outlook that aren't categorized. Another potential gathering point is text messaging. If you're someone who sends and receives a lot of text messages in your day, or if your work environment requires you to use text, then I would recommend that you treat text messaging as a gathering point. Have a set time and a set place to go through those text messages, along with the other processing that you do. Social networking sites are another wildcard option for some people. For instance, if your Facebook account doesn't forward to your email, then you would need to check it separately. If you're fortunate enough to have a dedicated personal assistant, meaning that person who handles your schedule and acts as a gatekeeper for you in a dedicated way, then you can use that person as a gathering point. This means that whenever something comes into your mind that you have to do, you can turn to your dedicated personal assistant and say, "Remind me to do that." Now, by the way, many people do ask others for reminders, but they're asking coworkers or family members. This just creates a random gathering point that's unreliable. In short, you don't have to use this 6th wildcard gathering point, but I leave it to you as an option because I understand that this course needs to be adaptable to a wide variety of situations. So right now, take a moment and consider, do you need a 6th gathering point? And if so, what will you choose as that 6th wildcard gathering point? Once you've established your gathering points, a common question comes up. Should you separate work and personal gathering points? In other words, should you have 2 of each kind of gathering point? Should you have a personal inbox and a work inbox? Should you have a personal voicemail and a work voicemail? My answer to that is try to avoid having 2 of each kind of gathering point if possible. The key phrase in there is if possible, because for some people, it's not practical for them to combine work and personal into one space. A physical inbox, for instance, only works well for both personal and work if you're working from a home office. But if you have to travel to work and then have lots of unresolved things at home, you're probably going to have a personal inbox at home as well. Remember the principle that I shared with you about space? The more gathering points you have, the more switches you make. This means that every gathering point you allow in your life will slow you down, cause you to make more mistakes, and increase your stress levels. So, To answer the question of should I have one of each gathering point, work and personal, my answer is try as much as possible to not do that. Keeping your gathering points down will increase your efficiency. It will reduce your mistakes and it will reduce your stress levels. Most of the people I've worked with have found that when they combine gathering points and process work and personal together, they're much more efficient and much more effective. Remember, processing isn't actually performing tasks. It's simply deciding what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and where the home for the items are. So you'll be able to schedule personal tasks and appointments during personal time and schedule work items during your work hours. So in short, try to reduce the number of gathering points by combining work and personal if possible. This will increase your likelihood of success. But this course is flexible enough that if you need to have both work and personal, you can still succeed. I've now given you an overview of the 6 gathering points and an in-depth explanation on what each of them are and how to make the best use of them. At this point, I would recommend that you do not continue until you have those gathering points clearly identified. Make sure you have clearly decided on and designated homes for the following: your physical inbox, your portable inbox, a notepad, only one email inbox, only one voicemail account, and a wildcard gathering point if necessary. After you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next step and begin taking action to implement this training for everyday use. Keep in mind that all of these gathering points exist for you to put things in them. Try not to put anything unresolved any place other than these gathering points. The next time you're tempted to write a note on the back of an envelope or stuff something in the drawer to be dealt with later, instead use one of the 6 gathering points you've chosen. Get in the habit of whenever you find something unprocessed, use the gathering point. I'd also recommend you come back to this section and review the principles, perhaps every 3 to 6 months, to make sure that you still have the optimum number of gathering points and that you're using them properly.
Yourself. Time management, secret of success.
The second principle I recommend you practice in order to have time mastery and improve your productivity is to make sure that your mind is clear. A mind that is uncluttered with to-dos, action items, and unresolved ideas. In order to keep your mind clear, you have to have a system ready at a moment's notice to clear your mind of any ideas that come into your head. Here are 3 quick principles to keep in mind when selecting your mind-clearing option. First, the faster the option, the more likely you are to use it. Meaning, when an idea comes into your head, you need to be able to get it out of your mind as quickly as possible and put it into an approved gathering point. You want your option to be fast. Second, the easier it is to use the option, the more likely you are to use it. If you have to fumble through your computer or find the program, not only will that slow you down, but it's just a mental barrier for you clearing out your mind. Make sure that you use an easy option for clearing your mind. And third, the more portable the option, the more likely you are to use it. Because I'm going to show you how to clear out your mind no matter where you are, you definitely need to use mind-clearing options that are portable so that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if an idea pops into your head or a task that's unresolved comes to mind, you can get it out quickly and easily. Now, in terms of selecting which mind-clearing option you are going to use, any of the 6 approved gathering points will work. I'll just walk you through a few of the most common mind-clearing options people use. At the end of this video, I suggest you decide which 2 you're going to use. So keep that in mind as I talk to you about the different options. The first is a small notepad or notebook. The great thing about this is that you can carry it with you wherever you go. It's very fast, It's zero technology, and it's so portable it fits those three principles I talked to you about. Really, the only downside is that you may have to transfer the notes to your portable inbox or to your inbox and then process it later. And also, because it's not digital, there may be the necessity of retyping notes that you've made. A second option is a paper list of unprocessed tasks. This would fit into that wildcard gathering point that I mentioned before. This is simply a running list of to-dos. It's portable, fast, easy, and zero technology skills required. However, it can be bulky to carry around a separate list from a notepad. A third option is your phone, meaning typing notes into your phone. There are two ways that you can do this. Either you can type items into a task list on your phone, or you can send yourself an email. This is definitely portable, and it can be fast depending on how technologically advanced you are. It may not be easy though. There may be multiple steps to get to this. So if you're not a power phone user, this may be too slow for you. But if you find that using your phone is very easy for you, then that's a great option for clearing out your mind. Another option is a dictation service. Now, obviously, if you have a personal assistant, you can send them a voicemail message and they can dictate it for you and send it to you by email. That's a great option. Most people don't have a personal assistant though, so that's not practical. A couple of options that I've recommended to clients are Recall or Jot. These options allow you to call a number and leave yourself a message. These services will transcribe the message and send it to you in an email. That way, you get it out of your mind very quickly, it didn't take a lot of time, and it put the message into an approved gathering point. This is great for mobile situations where you're out and about, you can't take the time to pull out a notepad and write something down. The only disadvantage is that some of the options may cost you a little bit of money, and it may take a little bit of time to set up for a learning curve. And finally, the last option for clearing your mind would be making a note to yourself on the computer. This is great when you're sitting at your desk. It's digital, so you don't have to recopy the notes. You could perhaps type it into a notepad program like Microsoft OneNote or Evernote. The disadvantages are that it's slow to boot up sometimes and it's not highly portable. So if you're not at your computer, you're not going to use this option. So I've talked to you about several different options: a notepad, a task list, using your phone, dictation service, or making notes to yourself on your computer. To wrap up this video, I'd like you to select the top 2 options that you're going to use from this point forward to clear tasks out of your mind. Now that I've explained the principle of keeping your mind clear, let's talk about how you actually go about clearing your mind of its many to-dos. If you're like most people, then you have accumulated a vast pile of to-dos, unresolved items that are floating around in your head. We have to clear all of those items out of your head and get them into an approved gathering point. This will make it easy for you to process them in the future. The easiest way to do this is to use a list of mental triggers. We've provided a handout that you can download that gives you a list of triggers for every single aspect of your life, both work and personal. Please download the mental triggers list and I'll show you how this is done. By using this list, you'll be able to clear everything from your mind and get it into an approved gathering point. The process is really pretty simple. First, read through each trigger on the list one at a time and think about that trigger. If anything comes to mind that's unresolved, write it down. Then move to the next trigger on the list and repeat. If something comes to mind that's completely unrelated to the trigger, great. Go ahead and write that down. And if nothing comes to mind, that's fine too. Just move on to the next one on the list. I compare this to mining for gold. As you go through the list, you'll have lots of spots where nothing comes to mind. And then finally, you'll hit a rich vein of unresolved tasks and to-dos, and you'll just mine that for a while. So don't feel that you need to only write down one item per trigger or that you're not doing things right if nothing comes to mind. This will be easier to understand if I show you an example of how this is done. You're welcome to follow along on this practice run. I'm going to read a trigger from the list and you will think about the trigger. Then you will put down the tasks in an approved gathering point, in this case a notepad. Let's go ahead and practice for just 5 items on the list. Got your gathering point ready? Let's begin. Filing and a reference plan. Gathering points. Areas to organize or clean. Computers, monitors, or printers. Software. Let's stop here. By now, you should have a good idea of how this mind-clearing activity works. It's fairly simple. Now, while you can do this by yourself, I'd recommend you find a partner to help you. It's easier to clear your mind with a partner because having someone else read the list aloud will help you have less distraction and switches, allowing you to stay focused on clearing your mind. Once you've completed your first session of clearing your mind of unresolved to-dos and tasks and actions, you're likely to feel some initial relief. You've been storing all these items in your head and now you've cleaned them out. Right now, it's important that you understand that just doing this exercise once is not enough. Think about the initial mind-clearing exercise like a spring cleaning. You cleared everything out of your head and you gave yourself a blank slate to work with. Over time, you'll do better at avoiding filling your mind with clutter because you have a system to keep things out of your mind. However, it's very normal to miss things, to allow those unresolved items to begin to accumulate once again in your head. So we need to build a system or a schedule for you to clear those items out of your head. I'd recommend that you set up a time every 3 months, once per quarter, to clear out the tasks in your head. At this scheduled time, you're going to go back through the mental triggers list just like you did the first time. Once you've completed watching these videos, open up your calendar and create a recurring appointment with yourself every 3 months, once a quarter, to clear your mind out of all the unresolved tasks and action items. Now, you'll probably find that these future recurring mind-clearing activities will go much faster than the initial one because you're really just looking for all the little tasks that are hidden in the corner rather than dumping an entire backload of ideas. Go ahead and open your calendar right now. Schedule a recurring appointment for 1 hour every 3 months to make sure that your mind stays free and clear of unresolved tasks and action items. At this point, you may be concerned about this huge list of tasks and action items that you've cleared out of your mind. If you find yourself in that position, I would encourage you to move on through the training. A little later in this course, we'll get into the habit of processing, and I'll show you step by step how to take each item on the list and decide what you're going to do with it, when you're going to do it, and where it belongs. Remember, from this point forward, cultivate the habit of clearing anything out of your mind the moment it begins to interrupt your thoughts. The moment the thought of a to-do comes into your head, immediately pull out an approved gathering point and write it down. Get into that habit. Don't let anything swirl around there. Get it out. Remember, your mind is not an acceptable gathering point.
Time management, secret of success.
I imagine it's not a big surprise when I say to you that your calendar is the most important tool when it comes to time management in your organization. However, this video shows you how to view your calendar from a unique perspective. Think of your calendar as your time budget. What does that mean? It means that you have a weekly limit of 168 hours. That's your time budget. When you schedule things into your calendar, Think of it in the same way that you would think about taking money out of a bank account. You should live within your budget and never overdraw. If you overdraw, you'll go into time debt and you'll end up paying interest on time. Interest on time means things take longer due to switching cost, you'll make more mistakes, and you'll increase your stress levels. Because the calendar is so critical to helping you live within your time budget, I want to take a moment and discuss the options that you have for your calendar. When it comes to using your calendar, there are two main options, paper or digital. You can use either paper or digital, but each has its advantages and disadvantages. First, the classic paper planner. Paper planners are great because they're affordable, they're very fast to access, they don't really require any training to use, and it's easy to keep in one place, along with your gathering points like your portable inbox and your notepad. However, there are some big disadvantages with paper planners. First, it has limitations when it comes to recurring appointments. Let's say every Tuesday at 3 o'clock you have an appointment with your coworker. Putting that into a paper planner is very difficult. You'll have to recopy that appointment every single week. Paper planners can also be pretty bulky because you're carrying around many weeks at a time. Finally, setting reminder times for tasks can be a bit slow, and these reminders won't be automatic, meaning if you forget to look at your task list, you may forget to do your tasks. However, if you do choose to use a paper planner, get a weekly view planner that shows the hours of each day. Avoid planners that don't show the hours of each day. The reason is because if the planner doesn't show the hours, it ceases to become an effective time budgeter because you really don't have any idea how much time you have left. The second option is the digital calendar. You have multiple options for digital calendars, ranging from your computer to your smartphone to a PDA. Whichever option you choose for a digital calendar can work, provided you're able to access it at any time, no matter where you are. That means if you have a calendar on your computer, such as Microsoft Outlook, you need to make sure that it syncs with a smartphone so that you can carry your calendar with you wherever you go. If you have a calendar on the internet, such as Google Calendar, you need to make sure that you have a phone that syncs with that calendar and allows for on-demand access. For a digital calendar, please follow this rule of thumb. Use a phone that's based on the same software as your calendar. I call this the rule of lost in translation. If you do business with someone who speaks a language other than yourself, you need to use a translator. Can you do business with them? Yes, but going through a translator increases the likelihood of mistakes and confusion and slows the process down. It's the same thing when you try to use a phone that doesn't match the software of your calendar. Take a moment right now and decide and commit to which calendar option that you're going to use for your time budget. This decision is very important for everything that we do in the training going forward. The calendar is a critical tool for your success when it comes to time management and productivity. Over the years of working with clients, I've found there are 5 fundamentals that you should follow to help you get the most from your calendar and avoid common mistakes. First of all, understand that time behaves like money. It must be budgeted because when it's gone, it's gone. Therefore, whenever you process something that's going to take longer than 15 minutes, put it on your calendar. That way, you can make a withdrawal on your time budget and ensure that you don't overcommit yourself. This leads to the second principle. Avoid double booking yourself. Now, this is a recipe for disaster. It's a bit like spending time on a credit card. When you double book yourself, even if you think one of the appointments might fall through, you're creating a situation where you're going to be tempted to multitask, which will cause you to lose lots of time and make mistakes. You'll have to often reschedule and retrace your steps. The third principle will help you avoid double scheduling, which is never commit to an appointment without having your calendar resource on hand. Sometimes people will make an appointment and say, let's do lunch next week, or I'll call you next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. But they don't put it into their calendar. This is a critical mistake you should avoid. Otherwise, you'll put the pressure on your mind to remember when you're supposed to do things. Also, you may not allocate a proper amount of time when you can't see the appointment visually in your calendar. So, always keep your calendar with you and always put your appointments in your calendar. Fourth, schedule buffer and travel time for appointments. In other words, avoid having appointments that are back-to-back, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, with no room to breathe in the middle. This isn't practical or realistic, especially in today's information overloaded world. You need to leave space between your appointments for the unexpected interruptions, to take a moment to breathe and relax, to prepare for the next meeting that you have. And certainly, if you have to travel from one meeting to the next, make sure to give yourself even more buffer time to travel. The fifth and final principle, think of your calendar as a commitment. It's a commitment to yourself, and it's a commitment to others. When you budget time in a calendar, stick to it. Don't put suggestions of when you might do things into the calendar. When you reach the point in the course that discusses processing, I'll explain in depth about the difference between calendared items and tasked items. But for now, understand that only things that are less than 15 minutes and don't have a deadline can go to your task list. And anything that has a deadline and anything that is longer than 15 minutes has to go to your calendar so that you've properly budgeted time to complete those items and complete them in a timely manner. So, in summary, first, remember that time behaves like money. Second, avoid double scheduling yourself. Third, never commit to an appointment without your calendar on hand. Fourth, schedule buffer time and travel time. And fifth, when you schedule something on your calendar, commit to it. Follow these principles and you'll be using your calendar effectively. There's one word that's more powerful than any other when it comes to focusing your time, and that word is no. I'd like to help you gain the art of saying no gracefully and tactfully to others. As you become more productive and manage your time better, others will see that, and they'll want you to participate in projects, causes, things that they have going on. This isn't to say that you'll always say no, but you should say no more often than you say yes, because whenever you say yes to one thing, you're always saying no to something else. In other words, spreading yourself thin will sabotage the success of anything you're already committed to. Here is a simple, effective technique that you can use whenever someone asks you to participate in something. Ask for the request through email. This does several things. First, it gives you time to consider the request in a calm environment where you can look at your calendar and consider whether you truly have the time in your budget to participate. Second, it allows you to prepare a response that's diplomatic and kind in the case that you do have to say no. It allows you to prepare a response in a written format rather than making an excuse in person or, worse yet, saying yes simply because you're uncomfortable saying no face-to-face. And third, it creates a situation where the person may not actually follow through with asking you. Many people ask for help simply because you're face-to-face, but they weren't really committed to having you involved. This gives them the opportunity to back out gracefully or fail to follow through. Now, what if it's your boss making the request or your customers? Often you'll need to say yes in these situations. However, make sure that you always get a when, meaning a date and time of completion or action. For instance, let's say that your boss asks you to get a report to them. You can ask the question, what's the deadline for this report? This will allow you to make prioritized decisions about what you have in your calendar. A common mistake of managers and leaders is that they delegate many responsibilities to their employees, but don't provide clear deadlines on when they should be accomplished. This causes confusion and makes it difficult for employees to budget their time. Help your superiors or customers out by asking them to give you a when whenever they delegate. Part of saying no is also asking the question when. Maybe you're not going to say no to it altogether, but you are going to say, not now, but later. This is when I'm going to do it. By tactfully learning the art of saying no to others, you'll protect your time budget, protect your focus, and make sure that you're able to focus your actions on your most valuable activities. I've said that no is the most powerful word in your vocabulary when it comes to focus. Many people don't have a challenge with saying no to others, but they have a significant challenge saying no to themselves. I see this occur most often in entrepreneurs or in people who are in highly creative fields. They have many ideas that compete for their attention, but instead of saying no to some of these ideas, they put them all on their calendar and end up spreading themselves and their available resources very, very thin. I'd like to help you gain some skill in the art of saying no to yourself and saying it actively. The easiest way to say no to yourself is to create what I call a perhaps list. A perhaps list is filled with ideas, innovations, things that you might want to do someday, but haven't made the commitment yet to do them. When an idea comes into your head, if you're not fully committed to it, put it on the perhaps list. This will allow you to consider it later on without tying up valuable resources needed to focus on the commitments you've already made. Set a recurring appointment for yourself to review this perhaps list, usually once a month to once every 3 months. Then, as you review the perhaps list, you can take a moment and decide whether or not you want to take action on that idea at that time, delete it, or leave it on the list for future review. The principle of when also applies to saying no to yourself, meaning when are you going to do it? Ask yourself when a new idea comes into your head, do I need to do this now or can I do it later? As long as you are using your calendar properly as a time. Up to this point in the course, I've primarily been sharing with you principles. We haven't talked too much about the action, although you've picked up some great tips and some things that you can use in general. The next section of this course goes into hands-on implementation of your productivity and time management strategy. Because of that, make sure that you watch this next section in your workspace. What do I mean when I say workspace? It's the place where you are most often when you handle things like email, paperwork, and scheduling. Most people have some sort of a home base when it comes to doing their work, and that's what I mean. If you have a mobile office, that's fine. Just make sure that your briefcase and all of the resources that you normally use when doing your work are at hand when you go through the next section. You'll get the maximum benefit from this training if you complete it in your workspace. I can't emphasize that enough. Once you have the time budgeted to complete the training and once you're in your workspace, then there's a third component that you'll also need, which is the resources checklist. We provided a simple checklist for you to download. Keep in mind that this list we've given you isn't necessarily a shopping list. If you already have these items on hand, you don't need to go buy them. But if you're missing any items, I recommend that you go get them prior to going into the action section of this training. It's very possible you won't need to use every item on this list, but it's much better to have these items on hand and then return any unused items rather than find your training process interrupted because you're missing a resource. First, you'll want to have some large boxes, at least 8 of them. Really, any kind of box where you can put things will work. Then you'll want to have an electronic labeler, similar to this one that I have here. The exact make and model doesn't matter. There are plenty of inexpensive options out there. Just get the less expensive option. Also, make sure that the labeler has the batteries it needs. I recommend that you also have some place to put your DVDs or CDs in case you have some, like this storage wallet. You may find stray discs that need to be put away as you go through the process. Then you'll want to have an inbox, something like this really deep file box that's legal sized. The bigger, the better. Next, you'll want to have a set of hanging file folders that match the size of your filing cabinet. So if you have a letter size filing cabinet, then get the letter size hanging file. And if you have a legal size filing cabinet, of course, get the legal size hanging file folders. Then you'll want to have a set of manila folders, usually 100. Again, whether you get the legal or regular size depends on your filing cabinet. Next, I recommend you pick up 2 sets of something like these, which are alphabetical guides for hanging file folders. These are not absolutely necessary, but you will save yourself a lot of time if you don't have to write out letters by hand. So save yourself a little bit of time and headache and make sure you have these on hand. Then you'll want to have a set of stacking trays, 6 at minimum. The plastic ones are the cheapest. You can get higher quality if you're more concerned with the aesthetics of your office, but if you're trying to save money, any stacking plastic letter tray will do. I recommend the horizontal loading kind instead of the vertical, or the ones that load wide rather than the ones that load deep. This layout makes it easier to put papers in and pull them out. And finally, if you made a decision to change to a new calendaring system, different than what you've used in the past, make sure that you have that system in hand or installed and ready to go on your computer. In other words, if you decided to start using Outlook, make sure that Outlook is installed in your computer. Once you have all of these items and you're in your workspace and you've budgeted the time to complete this course, you're ready to go. So let's get started.
Thank you all for watching this tutorial. Keep watching.